We're good. Okay. You guys are set and you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
I'm just making sure. Oh my goodness. Hold on one sec. All right. So we picked the first option, and the title of our project is Centralized Intelligence, and it's by Nicholas, Jake, and me. This might be in the way a little bit. I don't know if you guys could see this tab that it's in my way. All right, here we go. Every day, government agencies around the world gather intelligence from cell phones and computers around the United States. The collection of this data has increased in recent years, with the Patriot Act being passed after the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. Agencies like the CIA can gather this information without a warrant most times. This data is monitored and collected with the hopes of stopping future terror attacks, while in reality, the amount of terrorists it actually stops is negligible. Is the way the data is handled and how it is gathered unconstitutional? Is this data secure? How many criminals are being caught and how many innocent people are being documented? These agencies gather intelligence on citizens through national security letters, or NSLs. The type of records collected in an NSL include phone records, computer records, credit history, and banking history. Between 2003 and 2006, the FBI issued 192,499 NSLs, which led to one terror-related conviction, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. These NSLs did not need a judge's approval prior to investigation. According to the ACLU, the Patriot Act does not require information obtained by NSLs to be destroyed, even if the information is determined to concern innocent Americans. If the information is not deleted when a person is found innocent, then there is an increased security risk and waste of resources. The lack of terrorist convictions or arrest is apparent, and another solution must be found. The information collected in an NSL is personally identifiable and should be protected, not stored in a data center somewhere. If they have all this information on someone, then they know a lot about that individual, perhaps everything. My other group's gonna have to come in for theirs.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, so there's a bunch of different agencies that use social media to monitor, target, and collect information from users. Some of those are the FBI, Homeland Security, any state department, and then U.S. Marshals. Those are just a couple agencies that will monitor and target and then collect information from users. So the agencies, they will have what is called an assessment. So an assessment is kind of like it's almost like a warrant for when police have to search a person's house, but they can use it to search like private chats. So like Discord, or if you have an Instagram chat, Facebook chat, anything like that, they can check to see what you've been talking about. If it's a like public platform, so if you're just putting stuff out there, like you post something on Facebook and then you put something in the comments about it, the agencies don't need an assessment to monitor like any of the knowledge that is put online. So with the public knowledge, since the government can just view anything, that can lead to like false accusations and people being targeted or people being blackmailed for stuff they probably didn't do. So it could just be bad if if you didn't do something, or if, let's say, you put something out there and it wasn't you, but it was under your name that someone stole from you, they can come after you for that. So that's just kind of the differences in what they use for like between public and private chats. You can go to the next one, Michael.
All right. So as my group has pointed out, these NSLs are fairly troublesome, and with the FBI and the CIA having access to a lot of this metadata to all these personal people, one of the biggest issues is the security of it. And I know Michael pointed that out earlier, and same thing with Jake pointing out the various resources they have available at their disposal in order to collect these NSLs. And one of the biggest concerns, at least, is the passing back and forth between the agencies, because the CIA has access to FBI, and I'm sure there's other agencies. So passing them back and forth is just an increase in risk. It shows the waste of resources, because if this could be handled under one agency, it would be just more efficient, along with some big companies such as Facebook, Apple, and Twitter have admitted to holding on to some of NSLs just in case they get brought up in courts. This is all referenced in the last slide under the last link. It's a fairly reputable tech blog thing, but they have verified statements from these organizations saying that they have the NSLs. And it's a total compromise in security if their data were to get breached, which we have seen in multiple cases, the most recent being the declassified Pentagon documents in Discord recently. It's just huge cause for concern that all this metadata is out there, shared by multiple agencies, and could pose as a threat to our national security, when in reality, these companies or these agencies are supposed to be protecting our national security. So it's that way you can see that it's a giant waste of resources, at least in this aspect. Otherwise, there's definitely a better way to go about these NSLs, collecting them and holding on to them. And like Michael said, they should be stored a little bit more securely rather than just in giant data centers. Otherwise, that is all I have to add from my slides. If there's any questions, please note them in the comments. Any other slides you would like us to revisit, please note them in the comments. That's everything.
All right, great information, guys. Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions for them? Okay, who wants to go next?
I can go next if you want.
Okay, go ahead and hit it.
Sweet. Let me figure out how to work this thingamajiggy. How do I share my screen? I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen. Sorry.
Didn't realize I muted. Down in the middle, you'll see screen share, and then if you click on it, you should be able to share whatever you're looking at.
Cool, found it. Awesome. Let me get back to that screen, and we're going to go like this. Present. Oh, sorry. All right, so we did defending digital rights and ethical overview of stalkerware. Stalkerware or spyware is generally a term used to describe the application that is specifically designed to track you or specific activities you are doing on your phone, your tablet, your PC. It's usually done by law enforcement, just kind of like keep track of you.
Hey, Mikey, excuse me. Are you gonna share screen, please? Or
Oh, I did.
I don't see it. I was just saying.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a screen share.
Let me try again. Oh, that's why I did wrong. Yeah, figure it out.
Awesome. Sorry, but
All good. Thank you for correcting me, actually. Let me move some stuff around here. Let me know when you guys can see it.
oh, you're
You
good. It looks good.
Okay, awesome. Now, where was I? Stalkerware, spyware, the general term used to describe applications that's specifically designed to track all or specific activity on your device. So usually done on smartphones, tablets, PCs, laptops, anything that can really be uploaded with anything. It's usually done without your consent, and it's really kind of scummy to do. The overview, we're going to go over the ethics, the types, and ways to prevent it. All right, so there's some legal gray zone is some illegal, unethical stuff that happens with spyware or stockware. Sorry, stockware is often used. Yeah, stockware can be a useful tool for law enforcement to collect evidence and track movements of suspicious criminals in various investigations. And in certain situations, the use of stockware may be necessary to protect the public safety or prevent harm. Sorry, when I start talking fast, I get really tongue-tied. There are some illegal and unethical parts of stockware. Personally, I think it's all unethical, but that's my personal opinion. Stockware can be an invasion of privacy and a violation of human rights. The stockware can be abused by law enforcement, which it has been proven to be done in the past, to monitor individuals without sufficient cause or due process. The use of stockware can be unreliable and leads to false accusations or wrongful arrests. Some various types of stockware. These are just usually some like remote software that's usually installed. You have FlexiSpy, which is a stockware app, which can be installed remotely on some devices. It allows users to monitor a device's calls, message location, and other activities remotely. You have MS-Spy. Actually, oh, sorry. I swear I don't have a dumb. MS-Spy, stockware app that can be installed on Android and iOS devices. It allows users to monitor a device's calls, messages, locations, and other activities remotely. It can be also track. Can also track a social media activity. You have Mobile Spy, which is another app that can be also installed remotely. It allows users to. It's basically the same thing as FlexSpy. It monitors calls, messages, location, and other activities. And Spyera, which is a stockware app that can be installed on Android, iOS, or BlackBerry. It allows users and does the exact same thing as all other ones: messages, location, and other activities, including. But this one also includes the device's camera and microphone. All right, protecting yourself. Avoid downloading apps that you don't know. That should be a given. Keep your phone's operating system and apps up to date. So a lot of times, some of these apps will basically exploit a vulnerability in the actual unpatched version of an OS. Use strong unique passwords for all your accounts. So no password 123, and consider using two-factor authentication. Be cautious of suspicious or unsolicited messages in emails or social media requests, basically asking you, hey, so we notice how we have this little video of you, click this link. Don't click it, they don't have the video of you. Regularly scan your device for malware using repeatable anti-malware software. There's tons of them out there. You can Google which ones you want to use. Everyone has their own preferences. I'm pretty sure this cache has a bunch you can recommend. Consider using a virtual private network or a VPN to protect yourself and your online activity. We got a little video here. I think it's just a little. Basically, inclusion is digital rights are crucial. Defending digital rights is crucial in protecting individual privacy and freedom in the online world. Remembering and utilizing protective measures can help negate the use of stockware. Always keep in mind that stockware of all types is largely a violation of these rights, by granting user tools to track and stop users every moment without their consent. It's important to raise awareness about this because it's an important issue. We all have our rights. We all want to be protected. We don't want people spying on us without our permission, which is never what happened. That we're going to get permission. And you just need to notice like simple stuff so you can do to protect yourself. Anyway, that's it. Any questions?
All right, good job. Questions for them? Okay, who wants to go next?
My group will go next.
Go for it.
Okay, let me know if you can see this. Okay, so this is my group's ethics presentation. Today we'll be talking about surveillance devices and why they are fair and ethical. This was done by me, Jackie, and German. So these are some examples of different surveillance devices that we use nowadays. Apple AirTags, street cameras, body cams, Ring cameras, event data recorders on cars, and Amazon Alexas. And each one of these devices can track the location and or movement of each object or person. So we'll be talking about the pros and cons of body cameras. So some pros are the fact that you can view the perspective of the cop and the civilian. They can be used for evidence to the court for rulings. They can properly convict a person or prove them innocent based on their actions. And they can judge the cop by his or her actions if they were in the right or wrong, and possibly even terminate that cop. Some cons of body cameras are the videos can go against people's privacy. I know people don't like being recorded without their consent. Video evidence can be tampered with, and people are really good at editing nowadays. And so it's very easy to make a realistic looking fake video. And lastly, cops have the ability to turn off their cameras at any point, making this would be very unethical for them to do, but if only are possible to have them on 24/7. And so here's some stories about why we need these surveillance devices and body cameras. So officers tased a 15-year-old boy on a moving ATV, which led to the little boy dying on the way to the hospital. In the article, many of the officers had their body cams on, but turned them off when they were arriving to the scene. But the bystanders near the accident were recording the whole time. One of the female officers decided to do the right thing and turn her body cam back on. And the cops were saying inconsiderate and unjustified things about the boy. And the second story we have is that a lady was pulled over due to a road rage incident, and the cops had parked their squad car on the train tracks. They had detained her in cuffs and put her in the back seat of the cop car to search her vehicle for any weapons. And keep in mind, the car was still on the train tracks. And after they searched her vehicle, they didn't find anything, and the car was struck by a train with her inside of the cop car. Neither of the cops had any body cams or any video footage from the squad car. The lady ended up surviving with multiple injuries, but then filed a lawsuit against the police department. So why or why not should we have these surveillance devices? In our opinion, we think that body cams and surveillance are a good idea to have so we can gain more perspective of an incident with visual and audio footage in a court setting to make it as fair as possible. Using all of the technological advancements today, we can use them for more transparent and unbiased judgments in court trials. Here are our sources, and that is all we have for you today.
All right, questions for these guys? Perfect. Okay, excellent presentation. Who wants to go next? Got two more of you. You can rock, paper, scissors for it if you want.
I think we'll go.
Okay, Dan, go right ahead.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, he's good.
Okay, so today we'll be talking about the Freedom of Information Act, and otherwise known as FOIA, and how it affects our decisions and ethics, and whether or not civilians should be able to request information about what decisions go into selecting potential drone strike targets. All right, slide. A little history about FOIA. John Moss, a Democratic senator from California, was the first elected official to push the idea in 1955. Didn't gain any traction until Johnson's presidency, and he signed it into law on July 4th, 1966. Interesting thing is that Johnson actually was opposed to this, along with every single federal agency at the time. And then when he signed it into law, he didn't hold it in a public ceremony like he did with other laws. So he can make some assumptions about him wanting me to keep it hush hush. The FOIA was strengthened by the events of Watergate with Richard Nixon in 1974. And then ever since Watergate, FOIA has only grown in size with a series of amendments. The Sunshine Act of 1976 outlined terms and exemptions for FOIA. In 1986, Ronald Reagan issued an executive order to make withholding potentially sensitive government information easier. So this is what led to our topic today. This is the footsteps of that. And then Bill Clinton would loosen many restrictions and publicly release Cold War era documents for archive purposes. So what you'll see, the trend is that a lot of presidents will undo and tighten each other's policies around FOIA. And then, as we all know, on September 11, 2001, along with the Patriot Act, George Bush also placed new restrictions on FOIA. And this, along with the Patriot Act, caused many to view his presidency as the most secretive in history. In 2016, Barack Obama signed the FOIA Improvement Act, which sought to undo many Bush-era restrictions and weaken government agencies' abilities to restrict FOIA requests. Now we have a little video for you.
Congress established certain categories of information that are not required to be released in response to a FOIA request, when release would be harmful to government or private interests. These categories are called exemptions. There are 9 categories of exempt information, and they cover information such as classified documents, personal privacy information, trade secrets, privileged communications, and law enforcement interests. Now, even if an exemption applies, the Attorney General has encouraged all agencies to use their discretion and release information if there's no foreseeable harm in doing so, and when disclosure is not otherwise prohibited by the law.
So FOIA exemptions have been put into place to not only to set rules and guidelines on what can be released, but it can also be used to protect other peoples as well that they don't want sensitive information getting out to the public. They have set up 9 exceptions, with a lot of them ranging from protecting information, classified interest in national security, even one for consumer trade secrets, and even personal information that's for like protecting your social security number and personal information. So what makes these exceptions important, though, is these exceptions are used to prevent from people having access to certain documents and information that people may be seeking. For example, if there's an ongoing investigation going on with a case, the police department can use exception 7 and use one of these A through F reasons why. For example, like if there's a someone snitching on a certain individual and they're afraid if they release their information that can endanger their lives, they'll use exception 7F. Reasons being to endanger the life or physical safety of the individual. And they can use exceptions like this. Now, also, the departments can also use these exceptions to twist certain reasons why they shouldn't release information out to the public. As one case that we have found for drone strikes. So you can press X.
And the considerations to be made with drone strikes is if we look back at the exceptions, 7B and 7E specifically seem to be at odds with each other when it comes to, I'll just go ahead and go back to those. Carrying out a drone strike on American citizens, which is where the bulk of the controversy lies, especially after the initial incident with, I believe it was the son of Anwar al-Awlaki, who was a Cincinnati-born citizen who was targeted in, I believe it might have been Yemen. The details are a bit fuzzy. But if we take politics out of it and just solely apply a risk assessment of the implications of FOIA on the drone strike process, we have to understand the process itself. And in doing so, we see that it's entirely up to executive orders and the, I guess, adjudication and decision-making is a black box. So the secrecy of the current framework does provide confidentiality of the process itself and the integrity of ensuring that it can't be manipulated. The issue is doing the assessment of the risk. It is a single point of failure in the sense that it is the president's sole discretion. And as administrations change, there's no consistency between application. FOIA's attempt for transparency directly violates the confidentiality of individuals who might be put at risk listed in the exemptions, or confidentiality of the process that needs to be maintained in order to deter would-be terrorists, foreign or domestic, of just modifying their behaviors to fall outside of a completely transparent framework. And I'll pass it back to Mando.
All right, so one of the examples we found that restrictions for FOIA has been used was for actually a documents that were actually leaked back in 2013 about the policies on what the Obama administration was using to conduct drone strikes. And the NCAA in 2015 put in a lawsuit against the CIA to request the using the Freedom of Information Act to get the policies and what was the deciding factors. And the CIA used exceptions to deny a lot of these requests to the NCAA, and going up to multiple courts, a bunch of appeals, and they're still fighting them to this day, trying to get more documentation, with the CIA slowly releasing little by little, but every single time using the excuse of it's for confidentiality, ongoing sensitivity of ongoing missions, etc. Just dragging their feet. And that's one of the also side effects of using FOIA, is departments don't have to give you the information you're giving right away. They have up to, I believe it was said, 40 days to respond. And but they can give you the reason why they don't, and you can fight it, and it can take years for people to fight it. As well as FOIA can also be used for political reasons. A lot of people will try to get information using FOIA to gain political ground on each other, and especially when there's elections coming up, and which this also can lead to when it becomes more personal gains for reasons why FOIA is being used. It can release a lot of information out there to the public that we shouldn't be releasing out to the public, to know our ways. For example, for drone strikes. So now, like, our enemies know how we determine drone strikes, and they can change their behaviors and tactics to avoid those decision-making policies.
So in conclusion, we came out being against the process of targeted drone strikes being FOIA-able, mainly because the process would only be as valid as it is private. I personally disagree with it being up to the sole discretion of the executive, but facts being facts, at the end of the day, it needs to be confidential, because again, if it's transparent, you can just exist right outside of the rules, right outside of its framework. And is there any questions that you guys have for us? Okay.
Guys, great presentation. Really appreciate it. Okay, last group.
Can you guys hear me now? All right. All right. So my group is Gwen, Max, and me, Steve. We chose basically it was the topic where that had to do with law enforcement and the surveillance technology that they are using nowadays. And we chose to look at some of the precedents that are being set with the use of it and also the dangers of the same technology in the civilian market. Not necessarily both, well, I shouldn't say not necessarily, both to the dangers of that technology, both to the civilians and to the privacy of those around them. Like any technology, it's good and bad, but it's gonna be used for used and abused long before it gets regulated to where, or in this case, protected to where it's not necessarily a problem anymore. Multiple times, the surveillance cameras that we see for law enforcement, such as the CCTV, the footage that they have that they use for stakeouts, all of that, since it's now gets digitized, it is now accessible not just to the law enforcement, but to anyone who can get into their files, which means it's a huge risk for the people that are in that, not necessarily if they're criminals, but if they're just being monitored for whatever reason. There has been multiple cases where, such as the Wessler in 2022, where the Fourth Amendment has been violated. Agents, basically they set up a, it was the equivalent of like a wilderness trail cam outside a woman's house and monitored her house for 8 months with no warrant, and their justification for it was that the camera was set up in a civilian or in a public area, and it just monitored her. It was set up, if I remember right, on a telephone pole, and it literally just monitored who came in, who went to her door, who went into the garage, and it could see into the backyard. Now, while it can be argued that who comes to your door and who enters your house, or who enters your house from the front, can be argued as possibly public information, it cannot be argued that being able to monitor the backyard is. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the other thing is with the CCTV, while it's getting better, there's still a lot of issues that go into it, and new issues are constantly being added as people go into the CCTV and use it as their own personal security system. It can be used to, like it's intended for the government and for the for its intended uses, but it can be misused quite easily. Sorry, I keep losing my train of thought. I've got a little bit of a headache. The next thing we chose was we decided to keep it with vehicles, roads, stuff like that, and we chose the black box issue with that you, as we covered earlier in class, pretty much all modern vehicles have a black box that is intended to be used in the event of things like fatal car accidents. But the issue is that you will, with any new technology, it's not really regulated, so it can be quite easily. Sorry, headache's getting. So the technology is intended to monitor basically what goes on inside the car, the reactions of the driver, the crumple zone, things like that. But it can be used in conjunction with pretty much anything, such as, once again, traffic cams. If they see a car that was in the general area, they can sit there, and as it was when it first came out, there was no regulation on it. So they basically, the person had no idea what was going on with their vehicle, but their vehicle was, they had the black box data taken, and it was searched. They ended up finding out that didn't even know they were a suspect in a hit and run, but they had been in the area. They had taken their car in for I don't remember what it was. It was like body change, but and yeah. So like any new technology, it's got its ups and its downs. It's a great thing, but the issue is that it's going to be misused until boundaries are put on it. Couldn't think of the word, sorry. And then the last but not least is the section I did, which was dash cams, and they're becoming more prevalent here in America, but in other countries they're used for extremely heavily in Eastern European states, the former Russian bloc, because there's a huge issue with police corruption. So they use them for their intended use of recordings such as getting pulled over, getting accidents. But the issue is that even though your vehicle is considered a personal property, anything that is recorded inside the vehicle is considered a personal conversation, even if it's recorded inside your property without you there. So in the event of you having a recording of someone talking in your car, if that recording somehow manages to get used against that person, you are liable because it is your device and it is your responsibility to properly store and destroy, the surveillance. And then interesting bit of trivia, the actual first recorded use of a dash cam was recorded in a popular science magazine back in 1939. A officer in DC had bolted a Hollywood video camera to his dashboard, and they used it to record. They actually ended up, it was the first, that officer was also the first one to present video evidence in a courtroom against a woman with severe traffic violations. It didn't go in, the article didn't go into what it was, but yeah, the camera was so old that they didn't even it wasn't even like a continuous video. It was a bunch of still frames that it basically just took a ton of pictures in single snapshot mode. Sorry. Here's our references. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, great job, everybody. I really love the bit of trivia on the end. That is very cool.
I had a
You have a
just
question?
something to add to that. I don't know, Steve, if you saw a bunch of the, like, with the way the technology was used, I came across where like police or just anybody that was in charge of cameras, they would use it to stalk people. Like as a, they would do it. They would be like, oh, hey, can you they would like watch their ex-girlfriends or their ex-husbands and stuff like that. They would just use that information to just track, anything what they could about people, or like harass people, or like there was even an instance where they would harass people that just, either went to nightclubs and stuff like that. Just stuff like that you would just find, which just made it surprising that the one thing that stops it from really being implemented a lot of the times is just, the corruptibility of people. It's just funny in that way.
Yeah, it didn't surprise, or that honestly doesn't surprise me. I would have probably put that in, but we mostly looked for relations between the cameras and law enforcement and what was going on with that. But yeah, that would have been another angle we could have taken it from.
And that if you came across it, because I don't know, maybe we just different searches,
Yeah, it's really
Different
interesting that you guys had very similar topics and different takes on it. I always like to see the papers because, different personalities, different takes, different research topics. Yeah, it's really cool to see that. Okay, everybody, you guys did great. So today, that's really all we have for today. Does anyone have any questions or need anything covered? Don't forget, if you need the research exam, it's tomorrow at 6:30. And then next week is all finals prep and study. Do you guys need anything? You're all good today.
I had a question about the cybersecurity range day that's going on tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
let me go
in-
look.
Is that all in person at the universities, or is there like live feeds or something?
Let's see.
I think it says different ones for each one.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different locations. Locally for you guys, the APIN building, Sarah Hoyt, who's our Cyber Defense Center director, she's really awesome. So if you get a chance to go over and hit that one, I highly suggest hitting the Wireshark one. That one looks like a really good one. Metasploit's another really good one because we'll actually be doing that next year. So there's some really great stuff over there. I don't know that they're going to be broadcasting any of it over Zoom. I didn't get any Zoom links or anything like that. Let me go look at the announcements. I just got an email with all that stuff on it and just copied and pasted anything. Anywhere you see like UI Moscow, CEA, those are the actual campuses that they're going to be at. So where it says CWI, that's your campus there. CEI is like the Eastern Idaho ones, and ISU is of course the one here in Pocatello. But I would say if you can go hit the one on your campus, it is totally worth it to get in there and take a look at some of that, because you're going to get like a nice live demo on some of the stuff that you're actually going to be using in year 2. So
Nick just brought up a good point. Can you check and see if they're going to be recording them?
I don't know if they will, but I will ask Sarah. Let me go find her email. Okay, I will let you know. She's usually pretty fast. I will send you guys her reply as soon as I get it. I really hope they do, because I can't go see them, and I always enjoy seeing what they do with that. I think Sarah, possibly Jay and Linda, who are the other 2 cybersecurity instructors, will be there helping with that. They are all really great at troubleshooting and really good at helping on stuff and have a ton of industry knowledge. So guys, have a great weekend. Try to hit that if you can, and hit me with an email or anything if you have any questions. I am going to shorten my office hours today because I've only had 3 hours of sleep. I had a cat that had to go in for surgery, and he decided to yell all night long. So I'm gonna shorten that, and then I'm gonna tax him on tomorrow since we're doing the testing tomorrow. Anyway, you guys have a great night. If I don't see you tomorrow for testing, have a good weekend, okay? See ya.